Hello everyone, this is Shanku and welcome to chapter 5 of the microservices with Spring Boot tutorial. In the previous chapter, we talked about the discovery server and we saw how we can register our APIs or our components with the discovery server inside the microservices ecosystem. And in this chapter, we're going to take a look at how we can call one API from another API within our microservices ecosystem using Feign client and choosing the discovery server. So first up, we have this application which we have already seen in a previous chapter. This is the discovery server, and let's take a look at this once more, and let's open up POM and look at the dependencies for this project. So let's go inside the dependencies tab and look at the dependencies for this project. So we have Spring Boot starter actuator, so this is going to add some basic health metrics to our application. And then we have the Spring Boot starter, Spring Cloud starter, Netflix Eureka server. So this is going to start up the discovery server, or this is going to make this application a discovery server. And apart from that, we have the dev tools and Spring Boot starter test, right? And this is basically our discovery server that we have already seen in a previous chapter. And we have this main class here, or we have this Eureka discovery server application.java class here, which has the main method inside it, and it has the enabled Eureka server annotation on top of it, right? So if you're not already familiar with the discovery server and what discovery server is all about, I would recommend you to pause this video and get a basic idea about what discovery server is and how it works. And I would put the link for my tutorial on discovery server in the description box below and on the right hand side top corner of the screen. So apart from that, we have these APIs, these projects which are essentially APIs. So we have the location service, and let's take a look at the POM inside this project, and let's take a look at the dependencies for this project. So we have Spring Boot starter web. So this dependency is going to make this application a web application. We have Spring Cloud starter Netflix Eureka client. So this is going to register this service or register this API with the discovery server or with the Netflix Eureka registry server. Apart from that, we have Spring Boot dev tools and Spring Boot starter test, right? Now let's delve into the main classes or the Java classes of this application. So first up, we have this location service application.java class. So this is a basic Java class, or this is a basic entry point for the Spring application, and it has Spring Boot application annotation on top of it. And it has this main method which contains the Spring application.run method that is being called inside this method, right? So apart from that, we have the controller for this class or for this project. So if you're not already familiar with Spring APIs and how we can create RESTful APIs using Spring, I would recommend you to pause this video and get a basic idea about how we can use Spring Boot to develop RESTful APIs and how RESTful APIs work in Spring. And I would put the link for my tutorial on Spring APIs and how we can create RESTful APIs using Spring Boot in the description box below and on the right hand side top corner of the screen, right? So we have this REST controller annotation on top of this class, and this marks this class as a REST controller. Apart from that, we have the request mapping annotation on top of this class, where we are setting the request path for this controller. And inside this, we have this server.port. So this is nothing but the port on which we are running the application, and in a while we're going to understand why we have this attribute, a port, inside our location controller, right? And apart from that, we have a get mapping inside this class. So we have this get location method, which is annotated as annotated with get mapping on top of it, and this produces application JSON. So this is going to serve as an endpoint for our API, location service API, and it returns a new instance of location, right, which contains the port. So in a while we're going to see why we need this port, or why we are setting this port inside this location class. Now let's take a look at the location model class. This is a very simple Pojo class for location, which has city, zip code, street, and port. And we're gonna understand why we are setting this port inside the location class when we run this application, or when we run our whole application, right? And apart from that, we have the getters and setters for this class. Now let's open up the application.properties that is inside the resources folder, and we can see we have the name of the location, we have the name of the application set inside this file, which is location service, right? So let's close this and let's go to the product service project. So let's take a look at the POM for this project, and let's go to the dependencies tab inside the POM and see what dependencies this project holds. So we have the Spring Boot Starter Web dependency. We have Spring Cloud Starter Netflix Eureka client. So again, this application is not registered itself with the discovery server, which is essentially the Eureka Netflix Eureka server that we have set up as a discovery server. Apart from that, we have DevTools, Spring Boot Starter Test, and Spring Cloud Starter Open Feign. So Feign is something that we're going to use to connect to another API, or we're going to call the location service API from inside the product service API, right? And for the Java classes, we have this product service application class that acts as the entry point and has the main method inside it. And apart from that, we have this annotation enable Feign clients on top of this class. Using this annotation enable Feign client, we're going to call another API from inside this API, or another API from inside this project, right? So now let's take a look at the other classes that we have. So let's first go to the model package and look at the product. Look at the product class. So we have the product name, product ID, and location. So for each product, we would have the product name, the product ID, and the location. Now this location is going to be served, or this location is going to be fetched using another microservice or another API, which is essentially this one location service that we have set up here. And we're going to combine the results of the location service and the product service, and we're going to present it to the client, right? So we have the location here as well. We have the location Pojo class here as well. So we have city, zip code, street, and port, which is same as the model that we have inside the location service project, right? So we have city, zip code, street, and port inside this. So these two classes are same. So apart from that, we also have this controller package, inside which we have the location proxy service interface. So inside this, we have this annotation Feign client, and we have mentioned the name of the API which we are trying to call. So this is the name with which location service would register itself with the discovery server, and when we are trying to call the location service from inside the product service, we would be using this name to look up for a service that has registered itself with the discovery server using this name location service, right? And here we have an abstract method. So Spring is going to provide an implementation for this method. Since we have a Feign client annotation on top of this class, on top of this interface, Spring is going to understand that it needs to provide an implementation, or we are trying to call an API from inside this interface, or from inside this abstract method inside the interface, and Spring itself is going to provide an implementation for this abstract method. We need not write an implementation for this abstract method. And on top of this method, we have the get mapping annotation, where we are setting the path that needs to be called, and we are saying that this produces a media type which is of application JSON, right? Now let's go back to our location service controller, and we can see we have the path set as API slash v1 slash location. So this is the exact path that we are trying to call here. So what we are trying to do here inside this interface is we are trying to call this controller, or we are trying to fetch the endpoint which produces the location, right? And apart from that, we also have the product controller. So this is basically a REST controller, and we have this annotation on top of it. And apart from that, we have the REST mapping annotation on top of this class, which has API slash v1 mentioned inside it. And we have the location service proxy auto wired inside this controller class. So this is the location service proxy interface that we have mentioned here, or that we have created here, that we have defined here. And Spring is going to provide an implementation for this, and that implementation is going to be auto wired, or that implementation is going to be injected into this location service proxy, and we're going to use that to talk to the location service API, right? And inside this controller class, we have the get products method. So it basically fetches the product details for us, and we have the path set here as slash product, and this produces a media type which is of application JSON, right? And inside this method, what we are doing is we are fetching the location details by calling the get location method of the location proxy, location service proxy interface, and implementation of location service proxy interface that Spring is going to provide. And then we are returning a new product object which has the location details set, right? Apart from that, we have the application.properties file inside the resources folder inside this project, and we are setting the application name as product service, and we are trying to run it on port 8182, right? So now let's start up all our, let's say close all, and let's start up our discovery server first. So I would say run as Spring Boot app. Now that our discovery server is up and running, let's go to our web browser and open up the dashboard for our Eureka server. So our Eureka server is running on 8761, port 8761, and we have this dashboard for our Eureka server, and we can see we have Eureka server registered with itself, and it is running on port 8761, right? Now let's start up the location service. Say run as, run configurations. Now select location service, go to arguments, and I'm going to select the server port as 8282. Click on run. Alright, now that we have our location service started, let's go to our dashboard, Eureka server dashboard, and refresh the page. And now we can see we have the location service registered with the Eureka server, and it is running on port 8282. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start some more instances of the location service. I'm going to do is I'm going to say run as, run configurations, location service, go to arguments, and select 8283, click on run, and I'm going to right click again, run as, run configurations, location service, arguments, 8284, click on run, run as, run configurations, location service, arguments, 8285, click on run, All right, so let's go back to our Eureka server dashboard and refresh it and see if we have all the instances of location service registered with the Eureka server or not. So we have 8284, 8285, 8282, and 8283 registered with the discovery server. Right, now let's go back to our workspace and start product service up. So I'm gonna say run as Spring Boot app. Okay, let's go back to our dashboard and refresh it once more. And now we can see we have product service registered with the discovery server and it's running on port 9394. So now that we have all our APIs up and running, I'm gonna go to Postman and try to hit the product service. So I'm gonna say HTTP localhost, and product service is running on 9394. So I'm gonna say localhost 9394, and I'm gonna go to the product controller class and grab this /API/v1 and paste it here and /product. And this is a get mapping, so I'm gonna set the verb as get and click on send. So we can see we have our result and we have the product name set as product1, product ID as prod-001, and we have the location details as well, right? And if we notice one thing here, we have the port as 8285, and this is one of the ports on which the location service is running, right? So this is running, the port is 8285 for this instance, and that is the one that is being used for fetching the location details. Now let's send again. So this time we have the port as 8282, and this is again one of the ports on which the location service is running, right? Let's send again. This time we have 8285, so that is again one of the ports on which the location service is running. And if we send again, we have 8284. So there's a class that we didn't look at while we were going through all the classes. So if we go to the product service project, we have this config package inside which we have the client load balancing rule class, right? And inside this we have a bean of type I rule. So whenever we are mentioning or whenever we are creating a bean which is of type I rule, we are actually telling Feign client what load balancing rule it has or what load balancing mechanism it should be using while trying to call an API. So since we have multiple instances of location service running, so we have 4 instances here which are running on 8282, 8283, 8285, and 8284, right? And since we are trying to choose one of the instances for fetching the location details, which is being called from inside the product controller class, or which is being called from inside the product service API, we can set the rule or the load balancing rule which we want to be implemented for us, or which we want a Feign client to use while trying to call another API. So here we are choosing a random rule, and if you're not setting a rule, by default Feign client uses a round robin rule. So if we specifically mention here round robin, I'm going to hit save. And let's go back to our dashboard and refresh it. So we have product service available now and registered with the discovery server. And let's try to run the product service API again. So we have the location service on port 8284 selected. Now let's send again. So this time it is 8285. Now it is 8282. And then again we have 8284, 8283, 8285, 8282, 8284, 8283. So this time it is using a round robin mechanism for selecting an instance of location service from the discovery server. So we have 4 instances of location service registered with the discovery server, and when product service is trying to call the location service, here we have mentioned that it needs to use the round robin mechanism or the round robin rule for selecting one of the instances of location service while calling it from inside the product controller. So we can specify our own load balancing rule or our own client side load balancing rule, and Feign client is going to use that mechanism to call one of the instances of the API that we're trying to call. So that is how we can use the discovery server, and that is how we can use Feign client to call one API from another API inside our microservices ecosystem. And in the next chapter, we're going to see how we can separate or how we can distribute our configuration and use distributed configuration inside our microservices ecosystem, and how we can separate the configuration from a project that holds the code for business logic. So that is all for this chapter, and I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if you did enjoy, please give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.